Subscriptions are certainly exploding across the U.S. economy, but that, of course, is not a new concept. Old school milkmen used to drop fresh jugs of 2% off at homes. Now, instead of that cheery man in the white, crisp, white uniform here, it's an Instacart worker. How times have certainly changed. Well, the global subscription billing services market is expected to more than double from $5 billion in 2020 to $12.5 billion in 2026. This is according to IBM. The average American had 6.7 subscriptions, so between 6 and 7 subscriptions in 2022. That's according to personal finance website Rocket Money. So here are some of the top categories for subscriptions. 90% of American consumers subscribe to streaming platforms, according to a Forbes survey. 72% to a delivery service, 60% to music, 34% has subscriptions to cloud storage, and 30% to gaming. So we asked you guys, our viewers, which of these categories would you give up first if you needed to save money? We've talked more and more about certain people cutting down on the number of subscriptions. Well, here are the results. 58% saying that they would give up food delivery. That's a bit shocking considering how popular we know that is. About 14% will give up streaming, music, or fitness. So food delivery, the clear loser here. Let's talk a little bit more about it, more specifically what we're seeing play out in the restaurant sector. For that, we want to bring in Greg of Francfort. He is a senior analyst for Guggenheim Securities. Greg, it's great to see you. So we're talking now about more and more restaurants adopting this subscription service. We have Panera Bread, P.F. Chang's, just two of the companies that have recently gotten into this from an analyst perspective. How are you viewing this?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating what's going on. I mean, when you look at what restaurants are trying to do from a data perspective, from a customer, knowing the customer, and from a loyalty perspective, this fits right in the subscription piece of it. You've seen a few restaurants test out. It is definitely early days. Panera and P.F. Chang's that you've highlighted are clearly on the cutting edge of this.
Okay, and so for all of the different categories that people could choose to cut out, but they won't at the end of the day. There are some of them that are just that sticky of a customer experience. They're of the brands that are set to be the biggest net beneficiaries of that going forward and be able to then increase price later on. How do they make sure they get pricing strategy right over an extended period of time?
Yeah, pricing is the number one topic in restaurants right now. You've seen most restaurants taking their pricing up 8 to 10% year over year. But I think as you look at subscriptions, one of the things you're doing is you're basically offering your most loyal customer a discount. I was watching the episode of The Office the other day where Ryan is teaching Michael Scott about what's more costly, trying to go after an incremental customer or keep your existing customer, and it is 10 times more expensive to go after a new customer. Getting that loyalty up, getting that frequency up is a huge part of what restaurants are trying to do.
It certainly is. And Greg, two coffee companies, and I don't know if you could just say Starbucks really is a coffee company, but you cover Starbucks. You also cover Dutch Bros. And I bring these two up because they're going about this in two different ways. So Dutch Bros, you can have a reoccurring subscription there to some of their coffee beans, whereas Starbucks has that loyalty program that we were just talking about. What do you make just of the different approaches there? And I guess in terms of what makes sense for each?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Some of the data points that we've seen, Starbucks gives a wealth of information on their website. The average loyalty customer, which they have over 30 million U.S. loyalty customers right now, spend about 2.5 times the amount of money at a Starbucks per month as their non-loyalty customer. So that's where you're seeing the advantages of getting people into the loyalty programs, getting them into the subscription programs, and driving frequency. This is a category where if you're a full-service restaurant in the U.S., your average customer comes 3 or 4 times a year. It is not a high-frequency category in some of the spots in restaurants. And so trying to drive that up, even getting one more visit a year, can be very meaningful for these businesses.
For consumers out there that are looking to kind of cut costs and look across their own streaming or any type of, that was a little bit of a Freudian slip of which service I probably pay the most for. At the end of the day, which is the most at risk as consumers are looking across and saying, you know what, I need to cut this one out, I need to cut that one out, and perhaps some of the trimming of their own expenses?
Well, I thought the data you were putting up there earlier about the customers potentially cutting out food delivery was interesting. We heard from CEO Russell Weiner at Domino's yesterday talking about their sales on the delivery business being down mid-single digits, the sales in their carryout business being up low double digits. And he attributed that to customers potentially balking at some of the higher prices, at the delivery fees that they're being charged. And what you've seen in that channel, you've seen a lot of these restaurants, as it's gotten tougher to hit the economics, they've priced more in that channel. So you've seen 25 to 30% price increases on what people are paying on a base menu for delivery prices versus what you're seeing for in-store menu.
Greg Francfort, thank you so much for joining us here today. Guggenheim Securities Senior Analyst. Appreciate the time. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.